Good evening and welcome to Donington Park for round 6 of the Race Anywhere World Series GT3 Championship here in Season 3. In the first half of the season it's been R.A.W.S domination in the Pro Championship with a tantalisingly close and battle developing behind, but now we close in on the final 5 races starting here in the United Kingdom. It's the shortest circuit on the calendar this season. We won't be using the Melbourne chicane or the final corner at Goddard's either. We will just be going for the very minimal Donington Park circuit with this final chicane, as you can see here. Going to be a very fast night of racing indeed. My name's Ian O'Leary. I'll be alongside Zach Sweeney for this race, and it's an interesting call, Zach, to eliminate those final 2 chicanes and go right instead of left of that final chicane. But what it does mean is only just over 1 minute 2 in terms of a lap time, and it means a very short circuit and a very chaotic race, quite potentially.
Very much potentially so. Usually when you use Donington you do go left-right as opposed to right-left, but it shortens the circuit, it keeps things nice and close because of course with a shorter circuit there's less time to be made up, and of course you often see with shorter circuits how much the slipstream and people can stay a lot closer, and with a lot of cars it can get very busy. So of course it won't play much of an effect potentially in the 25-minute race, but when we go for reverse grid for race 2, that's when things are really going to get very spicy, and we could see a shake-up in these standings.
Could, although it's not likely with Alex Urenga's stranglehold on this at the moment. 25 points ahead of Sean Campbell, who really does need to start gaining those points back at the halfway distance now. Thomas Cope is quite a long way behind after not attending at Brands Hatch. That became his drop round. Incidentally, Stuart Reynolds and Harry Wills round out the top 5 in those standings there. It very much is turning into a 2-horse race. In Pro, I'm glad to say though, in AM, it's a lot closer, and it's very exciting indeed. 1 point between Dean Timms and Jeremy De Boiver, with Timothy Vanderbroek and Ivo Linden also involved. Ashraf El Haddad as well, only 5th place, and he's 14 points back from that 5th position. So this is a much more interesting and a much tighter championship to focus in on.
Absolutely, the AMs are really putting on a show, and it's so good to see how much has fluctuated from race to race. We've seen different people towards the forefront of every grid, and it's really been a massive shake-up. So yeah, really looking forward to these final 5 races, crucial 5 races. You know, dust off any misfortunes or any bad luck that you had in the first 5. You've had the week break, you can come in today fresh and try and make a statement.
Absolutely. And that's what they'll attempt to do. So we've had our week off, as you say, and we'll be going 5 weeks through to the end from here. Starting off at Donington Park, then we've got Monza, Nürburgring, and the 2 American circuits to end off. Well, I say the 2, but the 2 remaining ones out of the 3 in the 10-race schedule. Sebring and Daytona to end off. I guess the real question is, are we still going to have a championship up for grabs by that Daytona race? In Pro, it is looking unlikely the way things are going at the moment, but in the AM standings, it's certainly looking like we may well get that championship finale. But what I have noticed from these tracks, and this has been the case all season long really, there's some real well-known circuits. There's no real strange small circuits that some people may not have heard of, and to put it bluntly, I don't think any of the drivers will have had to buy any new circuits because they're all 10 of them very well known indeed. And despite there being 1 or 2 new-ish ones, there's still not even any real red-hot new circuits on the calendar this season either. So it really is a very friendly calendar for all of the drivers. And I think that's kind of been shown by the amount of numbers we're retaining at the moment. 34 drivers coming into round 6 in the second half of the season. That's still great numbers compared to what we had at the start.
Well, I know all the tracks on the calendar, and that is saying something.
Wow.
So, yeah, exactly. Yeah, if anyone at home didn't know, I know nothing when it comes to tracks, and I know each and every one of these 10. So, yeah, well, it just goes to show how well known they are. And of course, yeah, they're the most used ones, especially the likes of Spa and Monza. They're the ones that are really used, even just in the public iRacing rank servers and things like that. They're the ones that are always on the schedule. So you'd expect people to have them, and the retainment level, as you say, has been so good. Often, you see with some championships, you can have really, round 1 and 2 really high, and then you get to sort of round 3, 4, especially after a week break, you have a really, big drop in numbers where people, especially if they're outside of the championship contention, are just like, there's just not really much point. But no, people have really kept on going, really had that determination, and it is just a very vibrant, very good atmosphere to be a part of. It's clean racing, the drivers are always having a chat, and they're just enjoying it, which is always the most important thing.
Absolutely, 30 degrees down there on the circuit here today in the United Kingdom, and it is pretty warm out in real life as well. I know a few people earlier on in the EU chat particularly were talking about the high temperatures in real life today, especially in the UK, where we're getting a little bit of a mini heat wave again throughout this week, and in some of the rest of Europe as well. Just a little bit more heat as well. It's going to make it a fairly difficult race, a fairly physical race. However, nothing awful for these drivers, you wouldn't imagine. But yeah, they're just getting onto the grid now. We'll have a look at the grid in a couple of moments, but slightly awkward having to line up going down a hill there, or up a hill I should say, on the run up towards Coppice. Hopefully they'll all get going without rolling into the car behind. But we'll wait and see on that one. It is a very short formation lap around here, so let's get on with the grid, shall we? Alex Urenga put it on pole ahead of Thomas Cope. Sean Campbell was not able to share that front row with his RSR teammate. He's alongside Liam Ahern instead. Stuart Reynolds rounds out the top 5, with Abin Schellberg just missing out. Thomas Danbridge and Harry Wills will round out row 4, with Taylor Lane and Ethan Bass inside the top 10 with the Ford. Chris Chatterton and Thomas Reiter are on the 6th row together ahead of Michael Patterman and Richard Dempsey and Jonas Dreyer, who all round out the 15-car Pro Grid. And then we've got the AMs. Dean Timms and Ivo Linden are on the front row, with James Slates and John Williams just in behind. Good performances from those two. Didier de Vlamink and Jeremy de Boyven are next ahead of Stefan Schuster, David Camano. Then it's Victor Chamorro and Timothy Vanderbroek. Gus Franken and Timo McKeown round out row 6. Then we've got Jorge Calvert Ferrer, Simon Dodge, Yamo Sastamoinen, Thomas Pugh, Kurt Hau Jansen and Dominic Goodsell rounding out the 19-car AM grid. There's a lot of drivers, a lot of cars on the grid here today, and not a lot of time for us to get through with it. So let's get on with the 25-minute sprint race, shall we? This is the qualifying order, how they managed to perform there in that qualifying session just a few moments ago. And it's allowed Alex Urenga another pole position. Is he going to take a 5th win in a row here in the Race Anywhere World Series GT3 Championship? Let's find out. We're on the way here at Donington Park, and that seemed to be coordinated between himself and Sean Campbell, who tries to get down the inside of Thomas Cope in towards turn number 1 to try and take that 2nd place away. He does exactly that, with Liam Ahern watching on from behind. Reynolds and Kjellberg stay in the same places, although Thomas Dandridge has something to say about that, and he gets up to 6th place now. But the RSR cars have really coordinated that very well indeed to get themselves into positions 1 and 2 as the AM drivers now get themselves underway. It's a good start from championship leader Dean Timms, who get himself away in the top 4 or 5, single file through turn 1.
Yeah, well, they've got to be in these Craner curves. Very, very difficult to run side by side, and they then flick right in towards the old hairpin. But yeah, as it is, always perfectly poised between the two RSR cars of Alex Urenga and Sean Campbell, 1 and 2 in the championship, and they have really been unbeaten. But you can see here Thomas Cope under a bit of pressure now from Liam Ahern down in towards the penultimate corner. And Alex Urenga going off! Such an uncharacteristic mistake. The race leader is off, and he's got a very, very tough job of finding his way back through. He has to get going before the AMs start coming around. He's managed to flick it round, but what a mistake this is as Sean Campbell gets to inherit the race lead.
Wow, this is a big moment, and a moment we haven't seen all season long. Alex Urenga making a mistake. He's not finished off of the podium all season, but one just little clip of the grass there into the final chicane might have just undone that record for good. He's only got 25 minutes, let's not forget, in this race to try and recover what he can, but this is a big moment in terms of this championship. Alex Urenga down to 15th position. He's got an awful lot of work to do to continue that record of being in the top 3 throughout the first 10 races of this season. Will he continue it into the second half of the season? It's not a good way to start this race.
Not at all. He's really starting this on the back foot, really getting his second half of the season underway poorly as well, which is not what you want at all. But now we have got a close fight between Sean Campbell, Alex Urenga's teammate, and of course Thomas Cope in that Lamborghini, who has been able to win a race so far this season. So he obviously is going to want to add one more to that tally. Coming back to the AM category, Dean Timms leads Ivo van der Linden with John Williams, Jeremy de Boyver and David Camano, your top 5. Very, very close. And Dean Timms just keeping Ivo van der Linden an arm's reach away. And of course, leading the championship, doing a fantastic job in this to start the second half of the season, to be able to pull away, and a win would be a very good statement, especially with man in second place, Jeremy de Boyver, back down in P4, and that is just a clumsy mistake there from James Slade.
Yeah, just tried to get down the inside and towards the final chicane and went around. Timo McKeon also has been on that last lap, by the way. He dropped down the order in the AM category. I think Simon Dodd's been off in the first 3 laps as well, but there's been a lot going on There's no doubt about that throughout the order. What is a very, very short circuit indeed, only just over 3 kilometres around here. Just over a minute in terms of the lap time, 1 minute 2s in qualifying. The likes of Urenga, Campbell and Cope, but just now in the race a little bit more, of course. It's a little bit wide from Thomas Jandridge, making that sort of a mistake. And speaking of mistakes, R.A.W.S has made one there. He goes for a spin out of the chicane, reverses out the wall and gets going again. That's at least a position for Urenga. But R.A.W.S makes a mistake just in that final chicane. Must have got on that curb a little bit and he's dropped to last.
Yeah, too much curb, I think, to the left-hand side. It is quite a fast-paced chicane, especially in these GT3 cars. You can carry quite a bit of speed, but you cannot get complacent at all. We can see Sean Campbell now under pressure from Thomas Cope. He's going to look to the left-hand side. It's going to be very, very difficult. This is the run in towards McLean's and then up towards the right-hander down the back straight. And you can see Thomas Cope looking to the right-hand side, trying to force the gap open. Sean Campbell holds his nerve and keeps his nerve around the outside, stays in the race lead for the moment, but with a compromised run, potentially Thomas Cope in the slipstream could have a bit of a look. But crucially, I think Thomas Cope is putting some good pressure on now, not letting Sean Campbell breathe. He's now focusing, is the RSR driver, focusing behind him as opposed to forwards, which is really keeping him in Thomas Cope's clutches.
Yeah, this is really staying very close now. Campbell and Cope, of course, were very close in terms of qualifying. Thomas Cope just taking the edge on that one and got into second place, but of course lost that position through turn 1 on the opening lap there. And Sean Campbell has managed to, just get this race lead and just stabilise the race a little bit, you could say, I suppose. As Alex Urenga just puts in a 1 minute 3.1, the fastest lap of anybody on that previous lap. So he's catching the 3-car train of Michael Patterman, Richard Dempsey and Jonas Dreyer all at the moment. Further down the order, side by side between Stuart Reynolds and Liam Ahern. Stuart Reynolds trying to make it a Lamborghini 1, 2, 3 and goes right round the outside there. That was a very impressive move at McLean's, and he makes his way through onto the podium places. You don't see moves around the outside there often, though.
Takes 2 to tango. Great mutual respect between both drivers as we cut our way back to the midfield in the AMS. Gus Franken trying to make up a place on Stefan Schuster. Has got Thomas Pugh for company, though, as they go through the old hairpin and that uphill climb towards McLean's. And running a little bit wide does the Porsche, and even more so for Dave Lamick just behind them as well. So, yeah, Donington, it is a very old circuit, not, abundant in runoff at all. That is the club-style circuit that it is, so mistakes certainly will be punished.
They most likely will be. It's one of those old school circuits that just does not really allow you for any of those kind of allow you to have any of those kind of errors. We've seen it in the past, of course, with Alex Urenga, I suppose. We're looking back from Stuart Reynolds, though. There's a lot of cars just in behind, although they're not all battling, of course. There's one long line that doesn't really see many gaps down towards the likes of Thomas Reiter, and even then there's not a big gap between himself and Richard Dempsey. Just in the background, Albin Kjellberg has had a good start to this race, and he's applying the pressure now to Thomas Jandridge, who he started alongside. He started actually just in front of, but lost that position down the Craner curves on the first lap there, a little bit wide into the grass there. As we go to Dean Timms now, championship leader in AM, and this is exactly the start that he needed to try and maybe extend his championship lead over the likes of Jeremy De Boyver, but also Ivo Linden, who might even move up to second with this drive right now.
Just goes to show how close it really is amongst the AMs. But yeah, Dean Timms doing a fantastic job so far. Ivo van der Linden is, he's there, but not quite, close enough or matched on pace to put much pressure on into any corner really. So yeah, Dean Timms doing a great job at just keeping it at an arm's length and minimising the amount of pressure that Linden can put on. This is a battle still between Dirk Bout and Stefan Schuster, as I think Gus Franken felt a little bit behind, or Stefan Schuster actually made some progress forward. But yeah, still very, very close amongst the midfield, and you can see Jonas Dreyer, and this is Richard Dempsey, I think, maybe going side by side still through this right-hander. And this fighting towards the tail end is going to bring Alex Urenga back in, and he's got a large gaggle of cars really that he can try and pick his way through.
Yeah, Michael Pattenboom was previously leading this group, but now he's fallen to the back of it. It's Jonas Dreyer who's managed to get through. His late braking from Patterman to try and make his way through on Dempsey. He wasn't able to do it. And Alex Urenga is going to capitalise on that immediately, not really losing any time in the process either. He chops across the nose of the Audi, makes sure that he knows that he's coming through. And so Urenga takes a position. He's only got just over 17 minutes, though, to recover all of these places. Thankfully for him, I guess the gaps aren't big between these drivers at the moment, which is going to be a big help to him.
He's got, he just needs to press forward, do exactly what he's been doing, utilise the pace that he certainly has got, minimise any more mistakes that he's had. He's going to try and brush it off as quickly as he possibly can. I think he's done exactly that, just to push forward and try and get onto the back of people. And as well, fortunately for him, they are also in couplets or triplets in their own little groups that will start to battle, and that will allow Urenga to close in the gap a little bit more efficiently as well. So yeah, he's certainly not over until it's over. And Alex Urenga, he's a fighter. He will be determined. And of course, he's had a number of race wins when it comes to reverse grid race 2. So yeah, he's no stranger to fight his way through a pack.
Nice 5-car train going on at the moment with Kjellberg at the front of it. Must have made a mistake here because he was all over the back of Dandridge earlier, but now that's all changed and it's all getting very close towards turn 1. A real concertina effect happening there. Nearly ended up with a little bit of contact, but everybody avoiding that for the moment. Looking backwards here from Kjellberg, you can just see how close this is at the moment. Just a missing of the apex of the old hairpin there. Taylor Lane with a nicer run through, and the BMW might just be able to bully its way on the inside now. Oh, we're going to have a look through here towards McLean's outside line. We've seen this already from Stuart Reynolds, but you don't see it often, and we're not going to see it again by the looks of things. It was a good effort right round the outside, but as we said before, it is just difficult and too hard to make your way through on that occasion. As somebody's got a round up in front, that's one of the AM drivers just recovering. We're already pretty much into lap traffic here.
Yeah, it's a shame, not something you often see. Maybe that AM driver not really having the best of races, but yeah, great side-by-side action there between Albin Kjellberg and Taylor Lane. Very, very close for Lane to make that move stick. Wasn't quite enough, but yeah, great. Still mutual respect between all of the drivers, and yeah, well, it was very, very close. Just come up a little bit short, but yeah, still that 5-car train rages on for just piling up behind, training behind Albin Kjellberg, who's doing a great job at defending. He really wants to keep that position and is fighting very, very hard for it. Still very close between the top two as well, who are pretty much separated by about half a second. And still, we've had trains amongst the midfield pretty much the whole season, but they've not really been this close. Everyone's kept in check, and it really does amp up the pressure by quite a significant amount, because you've got a lot of cars around you. You have to be on it lap after lap.
I'd say someone else who's struggled actually in the opening moments of this race is Timothy Vanderbroek in this one, I'm afraid to say, because he qualified better than this, but he's down in 14th at the moment, and one of those challenging for the AM title at the moment, one of those 5 drivers, another one of those 5, Ashraf El Haddad, is not here today, unfortunately, so he will take the drop week this week instead, and so 31 points will in effect be added to his tally compared to what it is right now. But when it's possible to score 90, you really can take a big hit by just not attending one of these races, as that's Vanderbroek trying to make his way through, flashing the lights, almost as if Jorge Calva-Ferreira did something wrong there, but I don't actually think he did in that race, in that little battle, excuse me, and Vanderbroek just getting frustrated, definitely.
Yeah, absolutely. It's that thing, just in desperation in the heat at the moment. Very easy for you to be like, what are you doing there, mate? But then obviously you look back in hindsight and think, no, yeah, fair enough. But yeah, it's just that thing of you're locked in such a tight fight that you, will certainly let your emotions run wild. But still, this fight amongst Albin Kjellberg, Taylor Lane, Thomas Reiter, and Chris Chatterton for 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th, and of course Jonas Stray a little bit further back. Alex Urenga back inside the top 10, by the way, and is not far off this train. So P5 is actually a very realistic goal for the championship leader.
It might well be, but he is running out of time. Richard Dempsey has been dispatched with already. Jonas Dreyer and Chris Chatterton won't be far behind, and there it goes at Jonas Dreyer. Richard Dempsey might even have a want to beat of this. 3 wide, pass, 2 wheels on the grass. Alex Urenga making sure that's not possible. And so Urenga does stick it out on the inside and will get up to 9th. But Richard Dempsey will try and follow him through and won't be able to. Dreyer will shut the door on him, but Alex Urenga will be very pleased to get those 3 in his rearview mirror at the moment, because that was a close moment, and nearly 3 wide. That could have been very dangerous going down towards turn 1.
Oh, absolutely, but they just about managed, and crucial for Alex Renger to consolidate that move because he did not want R.A.W.S or Richard Dempsey launching a counter-attack on him because he has not got time to waste. He needs to make the moves quick and sharp, get them done, and then press forward for the next car in front, which at the moment for him is Chris Chatterton, 1.8 seconds between him, and then it's a train, which then he can very easily, for his standards, negotiate his way through, but he needs to get onto them quick, he needs to make those moves quick, but he also can't afford to make any rash judgments, make any moves in haste, because he's still leading the championship by quite a fair ways. A few points lost isn't going to be extremely detrimental, but still he's a racing driver. He's going to want to get himself as high up as possible, and he's hungry. He can see that train of 4 in front of him. Yeah, he's going to be aspiring for that top 5.
Of course, the advantage that he has at the moment is the fact that his drop week at the moment is so strong that if he has a real off day today, then he could well just fall back on that and just take that as a drop week instead. At the moment, it's actually only possible for Sean Campbell to claw back 8 points in a single event because of the way the drop round has worked, because Alex Urenga's drop round is so strong. He can only gain 8 points at a time, and that's if Campbell wins both of the races at a particular event and Urenga scores less than 82, which is currently his lowest score. It's an outrageous low score, if you like. Meanwhile, we're getting into lap traffic here. We said this circuit is so short and it's going to be such a fast and difficult race for everybody. Well, this is exactly why, because there are 5 lap cars all fighting over a place in front of Sean Campbell right now, and this is probably the last thing he wants to see.
It is. It's going to be. He's just want to try and hope that he can catch them in good places, not get stuck behind them too badly, because Thomas Cope is going to be there to try and capitalise on the traffic. Maybe follow Sean Campbell through and try and put some pressure on. But you can see the first BMW darting out the way, and we often. It's usually always in endurance racing. Never ever really talks about car going off there as well, which is going to be probably a delight to Sean Campbell. It's one less to deal with. That is Gus Franken going off. But yeah, that's one less for the 2 race leaders to deal with, and probably going to be a nice little blessing for the race leader, Sean Campbell, who is going to be looking forward to try and carve his way through those lap traffic, but he's got Thomas Cope on his tail. He has to be careful of what he's doing.
Ethan Bass has been off somewhere previously as well. I don't know if this didn't happen too recently, but so is Thomas Dandridge. They maybe come off together. Oh my goodness. And that's Harry Wills in the background, just all over the grass. Never really going straight forward, is he? He's always having a bit of a moment of some description. It's Harry Wills. I'm not saying he's a bad driver, by the way. David Christie trying to throw me under the bus there behind the scenes, but he's not often in control sometimes. So yeah, either way, he's in 14th at the moment, just chasing down Ethan Bass in the Ford. This is by far the biggest train, and Ethan Bass just removed himself from it. Was it on his own or? It was on his own. Just broke too late into turn 1. He really was going around from a long way out there. Thankfully, he was off the circuit when those 4 got to him, and it didn't cause an accident. But either way, unfortunately, he was off the road. But yeah, this is so tricky now for the leaders, having to negotiate all of this traffic. And let's not forget, they're in a world of their own at the moment. Really, these guys are all in a train of their own here. So it's going to be exceptionally difficult when the 2 trains kind of combine here. It really does get very busy.
Absolutely, it's going to be very tricky. Fortunately for the 2 race leaders, they've sort of had a stalemate. They both managed to negotiate the traffic equally as efficiently, but yeah, this is going to be very messy. It's either going to be something that's going to be a blessing or a burden to Alex Urenga to try and carve his way back through. But you can see there, that is Taylor Lane going to the outside of Albin Kjellberg into turn 1 at Redgate. Has he got the move done, or is Albin Kjellberg going to shut the door? Yes, he is. He's going to be able to edge his way in front now. Thomas Reiter wants to get into the mix through the Craner curves. That is going to be very brave, sticking his Audi to the left hand side over the outside for the old hairpin. Bit of contact. Oh, there goes Taylor Lane. Oh, has he saved it? That is very impressive. What a save from the BMW. He's going to lose a few places. There goes Alex Urenga a little bit wide as well. Going to lose the place to R.A.W.S. That got a little bit messy, but what a save from Taylor Lane.
Unbelievable save, but Alex Urenga won't be very impressed because he ended up off the road because of it. Chris Chatterton got back through, and now R.A.W.S. got back through as well. Richard Dempsey get his nose swiped off slightly by Alex Urenga, just trying to defend there, going through up towards the top of the hill there at Coppice. So yeah, that was all very close, but what a save that was from Taylor Lane. Slight contact between himself and Thomas Reiter nearly ended up with him off spectacularly, but he somehow managed to save it. But now he is getting boxed in and getting overtaken quite heavily here. We've already seen Jonas Dreyer go through. Now Alex Urenga's trying to do the same for ninth place. The two make contact, and they're still side by side, but Taylor Lane is going to have to give that one up eventually, and he does. So Alex Urenga is up into ninth place, but that was hard work, and it was a great save this time last lap. We'll have another look at it on board with Taylor Lane. Just having a look, he went for a move on Kjellberg, but then he went wide, and Thomas Reiter got alongside him, and that's when things all really started to go wrong.
Yeah, you can see the Audi look into the left-hand side. Was it a bit of netcode? Was it a bit of contact? Did Taylor Lane just lose on himself? He did get tapped, but you can see that is a brown pants moment. That is him just completely going full lock either way. Managed to save it and carry on. Of course, those tyres are going to be absolutely shot. They're going to be scorching hot, so he expect him to fall a little bit further back, but yeah, well, he's still maintaining that P10, which I mean, it was a save so good. I think he's going to forgive himself for the original mistake of the contact and the positions lost, because that is certainly one you're going to want to clip and remember. But yeah, well, he's still pressing forward, and yeah, he's going to be hoping that he got really lucky in such an unlucky situation, which I guess is all you can ask for.
Yeah. It's he did get, well, I don't want to say it was luck there, because it was very good.
All skill.
Yeah, all skill, exactly.
Unlike Harry Wills, still in control.
Well, he is. Yeah, all right. Zach's really having me on for this.
What do you think of the BMW, Ewan?
At the moment, he's getting all my opinions out here, and he's getting none of them back. Anyway, Ivo Linden is just in front of John Williams at the moment, who I don't actually recognise on this grid. Must be a new entry, which is very possible. Here in the GT3 series, and they're negotiating some lap traffic of their own at this stage. Just trying to, and the big slide from the Ferrari, just letting the two BMWs through. This battle for second now really quite far removed from Dean Timms, who's been able to get away from these two at the moment, and you can just see him up the road there. You caught a glimpse of him. 6 seconds up the road now. It's pretty much settled as far as the cam leader is concerned, and there he is. He's got this track all to himself at the moment.
Absolutely chilling out in front. Of course, Linden tried to put a bit of pressure on towards the start, but of course Dean Timms' consistency really helped him there. 7 tenths quicker, 103.7 for Dean Timms, a 104.4 for Ivo van der Linden, and John Williams now is closing that gap and could see himself up into second place. So a good initial start really for Ivo van der Linden, but it really didn't quite work for after sort of the second half of this race, really falling off, whether that's tyre temps or tyre wear or anything of the sort. Maybe just getting a little bit tired, but yeah, he's certainly going to have to looking backwards as opposed to forwards, which is certainly not what you want at all. Luckily, time is on his side, and he hasn't got long to have to defend that place.
No, it doesn't have long. Only just under less than goodness me, that wasn't even English. Just under 5 minutes to go in this race at the moment, and we look back from Taylor Lane because Richard Dempsey and Michael Patterman are fighting again. At this time over 11th place. Further down, Thomas Dandridge going slowly there. That's Jeremy De Boyver who's just let through. One of the AM drivers, not entirely sure why. Jeremy De Boyver, by the way, has really been quick late on in this race. He's caught the two BMWs. Will try to just limit the damage that Dean Timms is inflicting on them at the moment. By, of course, scoring the maximum 40 points. But the problem, especially with the AMs, which have a few more cars, is that when you win, do often get shoved straight to the back of the field for the second race because it's reverse grid, so that does make your life quite difficult.
It does indeed, but that's why it's so close, because pretty much anyone in the field can win. We can see now Ivo van der Linden under a lot of pressure as John Williams tries to squeeze his way through on the run in towards McLean's. It's going to be the outside line. He's trying to go for the over and under in towards Coppice. Not quite going to be able to get the run, and of course Jeremy De Boyver is now interested in this fight, and in terms of the championship he wants to limit the damage to Dean Timms, who has completely run away with the race lead at the moment. Linden hangs on for the time being, but John Williams is very eager for that second place spot, but unfortunately for him now, he's stuck in second place, having to look forwards and backwards. And well, Ethan Bass, yeah, that is certainly not the quickest way to take the exit at Coppice.
No, just getting on that grass, and once you're on there, very difficult to get off again. As we go out to Jeremy De Boyver, who's really quick in the late stages of this race now, half a second quicker than John Williams on that last lap, and so he's really going to start to apply the pressure and maybe just try and grab a couple of extra points, 2 points on the line with these positions at the moment, as we go back to the pros once again with Gelberg, who's once again at the front of a train trying to hang on to a top 5. Thomas Reiter, Chris Chatterton and Alex Urenga all involved, as Michael Patterman has been off at McLean's. He's back on again though, fortunately, having lost a place. Let's see, just on his own really, that's been
easily done. Well, yeah. Again, he's had a race of up and downs as Michael Patman. He's been stuck in a train, was having a bit of fun up inside the top 10, but it's really come undone for him over the course of the last sort of 5-7 minutes or so. This is all kicking off now between everyone a little bit further back as Alex Urenga tries to force the gap open on Chris Chatterton as they run side by side down through the Craner curves. You can see the Audi's going to be on the outside. It'll give him the outside line for the old hairpin. Alex Urenga though just has to hold strong, brake late, be confident, get it stopped and up into 7th place, and now can focus his attention on the 2 in front of him of Albin Kjellberg and Thomas Reiter. Chatterton's going to come right back at him. A fantastic run off the old hairpin, side by side in towards McLean's. Alex Urenga going to be stuck on the outside line. He's committed though, soars around the outside and takes P7 back. That is the last thing he wanted though, because for the majority of his moves, they've not been countered by any means, and he's been able to straight away push forward. And with a minute and a half left to go in this race, 2 laps really a push, it's going to be a struggle to catch the 2 in front.
Yeah, he didn't really want that, but it was an astonishing cutback from the Audi of Chatterton there. Didn't quite realise he was capable of doing that there, but yeah, it was a really nice cutback through the old hairpin. Was able to get alongside once again, but Alex Urenga firmly putting that one to bed now and making his way through. Now Ivo Linden trying to hold on from John Williams. Jeremy De Boy has just made a mistake in the recent moments because he's dropped back. That was certainly a mistake from Ivo Linden though. John Williams thought about capitalising but ended up going straight into the back of his fellow BMW and so couldn't really do anything about it. He looks towards the inside through turn 1. Late on the brakes, not quite able to do it. These 3 look like they're going to take this battle right to the line by the looks of things.
Oh, absolutely. John Williams is breathing down the neck of Ivo Linden now down through the Craner curves, and Linden is going to be looking in his rearview mirrors for the entirety of the remainder of this race. Jeremy De Boyver and John Williams, 2 aggressive drivers that will try and take that place off him if he gives him the opportunity. He has to remain stern. He has to keep his nerve. He has to just try and minimise any mistake, limit any opening he possibly can. A car off to the right-hand side there. Not entirely sure who that is, but we are certainly in these closing stages of this race. This is where desperation can start to creep in, and it was Ethan Bass again. That is, yeah, not the race he would have wanted in that Ford GT.
Yeah, he just gets on the grass, and there it is. Pretty hard hit on the wall as well. And you saw it with the damage. And he's going to just get himself to the flag, hopefully. But Sean Campbell is just in the final moments of his lap at the moment as well, as Alex Urenga tries to get another couple of places. Thomas Reiter going to be his next victim, quite possibly, as Chris Chatterton goes off the road at the old hairpin. Alex Urenga does look like he's got that move, although there's contact. Urenga's off again. He goes for another spin into the gravel. He doesn't quite go all the way around, but he does go off the road. Taylor Lane goes through on him, so will Richard Dempsey, as his teammate Sean Campbell takes a race win here at Donington Park. It's a bit of a surprise, but it's his first win here of the season, and he'll be very pleased with that. Thomas Cope just in behind with Stuart Reynolds next, but whereas Alex Urenga ended up after all of that, he'll be down in 10th place, and it looks like he's going to stay there until the end. They go down towards the line now altogether. I think he will remain 10th as Dean Timms comes over the line also to take another win here, this time at Donington Park. It's his what is that, 3rd win of the season so far, all of them having come in race 1, and that continues here today. Ivo Linden holds off John Williams and Jeremy De Boyver to the line, but Alex Urenga has had a bit of a disaster today in that race.
A race to forget for Alex Urenga, which is not something you often say. He is the man on form. Fortunately for him, a bit of a silver lining, of course, with race 2 reversing the grid and putting him back towards the sharp end of the field, but that was part of the reason of his demise. In race 1, he started towards the front and had a spin, so hopefully history doesn't repeat itself straight away for Alex Urenga. But yeah, you're always going to have off rounds for Alex Urenga. It's one of these, and again, his blessing is going to be the drop round, which he can take now, but he has to ensure that he remains his usual form for the remainder of the season. But yeah, fantastic drive from both of our leaders of Sean Campbell, who managed to hold off Thomas Cope and pull a fairly marginal gap over him as well.
Yeah, it was a nice gap by the end. Thomas Cope just 4.5 seconds adrift. Stuart Reynolds nearly 11. He's on the podium though. Liam Herning, Albin Kjellberg round out the top 5. Thomas Reiter involved in much of the battling throughout, finishes 6th ahead of Jonas Dreyer, Taylor Lane, Richard Dempsey, who all managed to sneak ahead of Alex Urenga there, who finishes 10th. And with that, this will become his drop round no matter what happens throughout race 2. Harry Wills will be 11th ahead of Chris Charlton, Michael Patterman, Thomas Dandridge and Ethan Bass finishing 1 lap down, the only car to do so inside the Pro category because of that damage he sustained on the final lap. In the AM category, it was Dean Timms who took that one. He managed to get into 11th overall, but it's the AM victory that he was looking for. Ivo Linden, 10 seconds adrift by the end. He held off John Williams and Jeremy De Boyver to the line. Victor Chamorro got inside the top 5, just ahead of his compatriot David Camano. Then it was Stefan Schuster, Dirk Bouts, Didier Vlamington, Thomas Pugh rounding out the top 10. Timothy Vanderbroek recovered to 11th ahead of James Slate. Tom Goodsell was 13th ahead of Jorge Ferrer and Jarmo Sastamoinen. Gus Franken, Kurt Ho Jansen and Simon Dodd round out the drivers. Also Timo McKeown as well, who also finished down there in 19th place, a further lap down. He was 5 laps down by the end, but everybody completed 50%, and so everybody will be included within the reverse grid here, Zach, which is going to be very interesting indeed. That was such a busy race, mainly because this circuit is so short.
Can't wait for race 2 at all. It's going to be an absolute cracker. Race 1, pretty much for the entirety of this season, our 5 rounds so far has set the standard high. Then race 2 comes in and absolutely delivers. I'm sure it's going to be no different today at Donington. As you say, the short style, of course the club nature of Donington Park as well is going to really lend itself to some good overtaking. Of course, some mistakes creeping in, which spices things up, give us some chaos. So yeah, race 2, it's going to be very, very crazy. A full reverse grid, as you say. So yeah, well, let's just see how it goes.
Absolutely. Timothy Vanderbroek, I can tell you, not pleased with how that happened throughout that race there. But of course, everybody's got to keep very alert and whatever for seeing the next session and making sure they get into that. Of course, it's double the length, but reverse grid, as we've already talked about. 50 minutes though for race 2, and a few more points on offer as well. I think once again though, Alex Urenga being off the road there, and this will now, as I said earlier, become his drop week. No matter what happens with this next race, I believe he's dropped 14 points to Sean Campbell already in that one race, and so he's only dropped 8 points pretty much all season at most. So this will be his drop week, and so Sean Campbell will be able to gain very limited amount of points on him today and try and close that margin from what is 25 points at the moment. We are going to just head into a break right now, though. When we return, the 50-minute reverse grid race will be coming up, so stay with us. We'll be back in a few moments' time. Welcome back to Donington Park for round 6 of the Race Anywhere World Series GT3 Championship, where we've already had race 1 for a good 25 minutes, and we've got the reverse grid race 2 coming up here in a few moments' time. But before we do go with that, we're going to have a quick chat to Simon Dodd, who joins us now just before race 2. Simon, good to have you here. Didn't notice, I don't know if it was just me or whether this did actually happen, that you dropped down maybe a couple of places in the opening lap or so. Just tell us a little about what you saw on the opening few laps during that race.
Yeah, basically, so lap 1, I mean, I got a really poor qualifying, not going to lie, it all went wrong. We didn't go wrong, it just wasn't good. So I was way down the leaderboard for the quali. And then lap 1, I was playing it nice and safe, and then lap 2 came out of turn 1 and then down through the S's towards the old hairpin, and that left before the old hairpin. Everyone sort of concertinaed up and slowed down, and I was on a bit of a run. Unfortunately, I was turning as everyone concertinaed in front of me, at which point I had to hit the brakes fairly hard while I was still steering. And don't know what happens, but physics deduces that when you're still turning and you hit the brakes and the weight transfers to the front of the car, it doesn't like it, and it sent me straight to the barriers basically. So yeah, I limped back round to the pits, got a meatball, and put the repairs on board, and then just sort of pooted around basically. Took a load of repairs, ended up sort of 4 laps down, but finished the race out. I was on pace with the tail end of the pros. I had to let a load of them past just because they're pros and I'm an am, and they were a few laps up on me. But I let them pass and then just sort of stuck on the back of them to complete it. And I feel like I've got good pace. Looking at the times I was doing compared to the leading am guys, I'm on pace with them. So hopefully race 2 I'm starting in P2, I believe. Hopefully they'll get a good result with this one and get some points on the board, because that one that hurt my championship standings, I'm not going to lie. Actually, I'm still in P9 in the championship, so not too bad, but yeah, I've dropped a place thanks to race 1.
Still going all right at the moment. I mean, where do you think you will finish? I know that obviously you're hoping for a better result, and it's got a good starting place, good pace, but where do you think you will actually finish?
I'm aiming for a podium. I think Donington was the first race I actually won, and it was in race 2 of one of these events many seasons ago now. It was my first ever race win in this championship, so if I can get a win, happy days, but I'm realistically hoping for a podium. Just keep it on the black stuff, keep out of trouble, and see what happens basically.
Yeah, we'll keep our fingers crossed for you, but yeah, for now, Simon, we'll let you go. Enjoy race 2, and yeah, we'll see you out there.
Yeah, thank you very much, guys. As always, enjoying the stream and all of that lot, and I'll enjoy watching it back tomorrow.
Thanks very much. Simon Dodd there, looking for a good result there in that in the second race here coming up in a few moments' time. We do have updated points maybe to bring you as well, just before we get towards the second race here. And we do know, of course, already before seeing these, that Alex R.A.W.S has taken a bit of a hit in terms of the points in the pro standings. There he is, only an 11-point gap, but because of the way the drop weeks work, it might not be the same when we go and view this at the start of next week's broadcast in Monza. However, it's still going to be encouraging for Sean Campbell there, Zach, that he has made some ground.
Yeah, absolutely. Of course, he did sort of really just play second fiddle to his teammate for the majority of the first half of the season. They both figured to secure 1-2s, and better team results was the better option. So yeah, we often saw Sean Campbell and Alex R.A.W.S just run away with the races, not putting too much pressure on each other, just to secure the team's points. So yeah, maybe with a couple more mistakes from Alex R.A.W.S, if we do see them, then Sean Campbell can sort of get himself back into contention if he does indeed want to aspire for the championship. But at the moment, they've got really nothing to win amongst each other. They're 1-2 in the championship as teammates. They've got a pretty substantial gap back to Thomas Cope in P3 as well. So I mean, from a team's perspective, it's great, but from a personal driver's perspective, from Sean Campbell, he's certainly going to want to make that ground back up.
He is, and he'll attempt to do that through race 2, of course. In the AM standings, things have definitely changed here. Dean Timms has extended his championship lead now to 8 points. Jeremy Jaboyeva moves up to second. Ivo Linden drops down, along with Timothy Vanderbroek as well, both dropping down. DJ Vlamik gets into 5th place, and Dirk Bouts also moves up a place. David Camano as well. Ashraf El Haddad, of course, not in today's race, drops down, but he will get some some padding of his points total there because of the drop round. I forget how many points he'll be added to his total at the end of the day, the very end of the day, at 31. So it will get him a few more places. It would move him to, 5th place, back to where he started, but of course we haven't done race 2 yet. So it will mean that he does take a bit of a hit in points, unfortunately, but it's staying nice and close here. We've still got the top 3 separated by 13 points at the moment, and of course Dean Timms has got all the work to do here in this race.
Everything to lose, so again, from that championship perspective, he's going to try and take more of an air of caution potentially into these races and the races to come, actually, because again, with how close it is, you cannot afford to be taking a spin or losing a lot of places. So it could be that compromise from Dean Timms that he might not be as aggressive as we have seen him for literally this entire season. He might just say, it's only one place, it's only a couple of points here, I can afford to lose it just to avoid the risk of a battle. And it's that mental game that can really take a toll. So yeah, it'll be very, very interesting, but exciting prospect in the championship.
It is. Ethan Bass will be starting on the pole here, though, ahead of Thomas Dandridge. Both of those might be looking for good performances here after poor race ones. Michael Patterman and Chris Chatterton are on the next row, ahead of R.A.W.S inside the top 5. Alex Urenga, one to watch, of course, from 6th place. Richard Dempsey and Taylor Lane on the 4th row together, ahead of Jonas Dreyer and Thomas Reiter, who will be rounding out the top 10. Albin Schjelberg and Liam Ahern are just outside of that top 10. Stuart Reynolds, Thomas Cope and Sean Campbell finished on the podium, and so they'll be down towards the back for this race. Simon Dodd starting on pole here in the AM category. Kurt Hau Jensen just alongside him. Gus Franken, after those couple of off-track moments, will be third, ahead of Jomas Astermoinen. Jorge Ferrer, 5th place, ahead of Tom Goodsell, then James Slates and Timothy Vanderbroek, who's one to watch. Thomas Pugh and D-Dave de Vlamink rounds out the top 10. Dirk Bouts and Stefan Schuster will be on the next row together, ahead of David Camano and Victor Tomorrow. Jeremy De Boyver, John Williams, Ivo Linden and Dean Timms round out the 18 car grid. I couldn't tell you who's not appeared for race 2, who was there for race 1, but either way, somebody has not. And Simon Dodd, unfortunately, already back in the pit lane. Not entirely sure what's happened to him, but already down towards pit lane here in this race, and for whatever reason, he's been forced to not take the start here. But it's going to be Ethan Bass who's going to take the start from the front in the Ford here. He's going to try and get away from the rest of the field the best he can. Of course, it's not the best car, especially around here. It's not really at any circuit anymore, but especially around here, it is fairly weak. I heard him earlier complaining about Coppice in particular, but he's got the pole position for this race. 50 minutes for race 2 here at Donington Park. And Ethan Bass making the wait a long time to get going. A little bit of a slight going there from Thomas Dandridge, who tried to guess the start but wasn't able to. And it looks like down the inside for Thomas Reiter, trying to get that up into 2nd place already. Michael Patterman on the inside there into 2nd place, trying at least. The two side by side going down the Carrera curves in this battle for that 2nd place. It's all playing into the hands, of course, of the leader as R.A.W.S makes his way on the outside of Alex Urenga. The two go side by side through the old hairpin and they battle over 4th place, still side by side, and not good news for Urenga, who's now got Chris Chatterton alongside him as well. He'll shortly hold on to 5th place at the very least, and he does just about manage that, but it was a slightly more difficult start for him on this occasion. Gus Franken has had a very good start in AM. It's a huge lead for him. Jorge Ferrer up to 2nd place. It looks like it's been more of a chaotic start for them as the poster to Simon Dodd had to start from the pit lane.
Big shame. Of course, that gap isn't quite 8 seconds and more, so the region of 1.8, but still, for the open half lap, that is incredibly impressive. We see side by side between Michael Patterman and Alex Urenga down the pit straight towards Redgate. You can see Michael Patterman just accepting his fate and tucking in behind the Lamborghini of Alex Urenga, who's trying to mount that charge towards the front. And of course, usually in race 2, Alex Urenga's a little bit further back outside the top 10, 14th, 15th, that sort of area. He's starting in 6th today. He's got a much easier job of carving his way towards the front. Spoke with him during the break a little bit over Discord, and he's punchy. He wants redemption for race 1, and well, Alex Urenga, he's a driver that will certainly do absolutely everything in his power to go and do it.
He will, and we've seen him in the past. We were talking about this before the broadcast, Zach. He's so good at making his way through the order in the reverse grid, and he normally has to start last. This time he only started from 6th place, and I think that's telling because he's not been as aggressive there on lap 1 as he normally is.
Absolutely not. He's just, playing it patient. He's not got as many cars to get his way through. He can be more patient. Instead of having 15 minutes to get through 13 cars, he's got 50 minutes to get through 5 if he wants to get to the race lead. Oh, bit of a that's a spin for Taylor Lane a little bit further back. That is such a shame. A bit of a Constantina as well, as everyone else tries to avoid him. The likes of Thomas Cope, Liam Ahern, Stuart Reynolds and Sean Campbell as they battle their way 2 by 2. Noah's Ark in towards turn 1. I think Liam Ahern's going to lead that train as, the AMs aren't at all far back. We see Gus Franken lead James Slate by the margin of just about a couple of seconds, but James Slate is reeling him in over a second quicker on that second lap, so yeah, really reeling him in and could mount a charge for the race lead as we see the fight between some of our front runners from race 1. They're very, very close, but fighting 2 a little bit early on, maybe not be able to catch the cars in front.
Oh, Harry Wills has been off, I think, or at least just to trip through the gravel. Oh, it's been a proper off, I'm afraid, at McLean's for Harry Wills, and he drops way down. He's going to have to get going before the AMs get there. I think he has managed that. Did he get... Oh, he got hit by Urenga. Wow. Now, that might be a bit of a discussion in race control because, well, nothing's going to be done about that in this particular race now. He may have some of the penalty points taken away from him, Alex Urenga. You get 30 penalty points, if you like, given to you at the start. So it's 30 points to add to your tally, basically, and you lose points for bad driving as opposed to getting minus points. You lose the penalty points, if you see what I mean. So at the moment, Alex Urenga has lost 5, so that means he's done one thing wrong so far this season. That might be another 5 lost, and of course that's 5 points lost in the championship, so you do want to keep things clean.
You do indeed, and yeah, it really has been a day to forget for Alex Urenga. Hopefully for him, he's only 1.1 seconds off the race leader of Ethan Bass. Is a little bit wide there. Goes Albin Kjellberg in 14th place, and just trying to keep with the train of cars to stay in contention really, and just stay in the mix. That is going to be the most crucial thing, to stay in the tow. As we see Thomas Dandridge, I think, go for a move for the race lead ahead of Ethan Bass. Side by side, you can see Alex Urenga also trying to get into the mix. They're going to run 2 abreast, side by side in towards this final chicane. Thomas Dandridge has got the inside line. Ethan Bass, though, is he going to try and leave him to drive around the outside? He's going to give it a go side by side through the final corner. Alex Urenga is going to get an almighty run. So too is Michael Patterman. And I think there Thomas Dandridge has been the massive loser in all that one. And Alex Urenga carves his way through 2 cars in the span of 1 corner.
That was such clever driving. You saw him really back off on the way into that final chicane there. He just lifted off and just waited. He knew, he could see exactly what was going to happen there. He knew Bass and Dandridge were going to go side by side through that final chicane, and he was going to be able to pick up the pieces afterwards. So he laid off slightly, he got that run through, and he's taken the lead already with over 45 minutes to go. It's now a question of whether he will be caught or not really. However, he was leading the last race early on and spun from the lead and from a potential victory there as well. So it's going to be one to watch, and he's going to have to keep all of his wheels on the road, we'll say, throughout this particular race, so that he can just take that race win and get back to where he will believe that he belongs here in this race. Looking just down the inside there, Dandridge, who really has lost out there. He was looking at the lead potentially, but he's dropped all the way to 4th, and will have to make the progress back through on Patterman again, who got in front.
That is how quickly the pendulum can swing in terms of luck, and Thomas Dandridge, yeah, it can so quickly swing. He was, as you say, going for the race lead very quickly now off the podium, and is going to have to work his way back up. But yeah, speaking of Alex Urenga, I think his worst enemy is going to be himself. The only person I can see beating him in this race is going to be a mistake from the man himself, or messing up the pit strategy or something of the sort. But yeah, it's going to be a very tough ask in order to conquer Alex Urenga, as he's gotten the race lead with 6 minutes into this race. So he's going to try and press on and do the best he can. Same too with James Slates, who's only been able to get himself in front of Gus Franken and Storm in front. 2.1 seconds is the gap. So yeah, it's just that thing of getting this margin early to then make the rest of the race much easier on yourself, because Ethan Bass, he's going to defend that second place for all his might, as much of this 50-minute race as he possibly can. That's going to give the crucial breathing space that Alex Urenga needs in order to just run away with it and drive his own little practice laps, essentially.
Yeah, he's going to be really helped out by Ethan Bass. Oh, these guys are in a huge fight. Oh, 4 wide, nearly off the chicane. My goodness me. Stuart Reynolds in the grass slightly, trying to get through here. Sean Campbell's managed to make his way through, but diving down the inside of him is Thomas Cope into turn 1, and he gets 7th place. Once again, it's a cutback from Campbell, and so he's going to try and maybe go side by side through the corner curves to get through here around the outside through the left-handed part to get you the inside at the old hairpin. And he bobbles over the curve, and it looks like he's done it. Now Stuart Reynolds wants a piece of this and maybe try and get through himself. Although it's difficult to go 3 wide here. Well, it's difficult to go 2 wide, never mind 3. A lot of them still side by side, and Thomas Cope does have to tuck in. All of this fighting is not helping any of them, really. Thomas Cope, looks down the inside again and nearly goes for it. Now Stuart Reynolds is going to capitalise on that. This is a really, really intense battle, but once again, it's not helping any of these guys, really.
Not at all, as Stuart Reynolds having to tuck in behind Thomas Cope, who finished second fiddle to Sean Campbell in race 1, who's very, very much driving that car to its limits. All a little bit wide there. That is, I believe, Jonas Stray getting it all sorts of wrong. That could open the door for Taylor Lane and Albin Kjellberg to get up a place as well. But this is the pressure that Thomas Cope wishes he could have put on Sean Campbell in race 1. He's going to try and lead the charge towards the likes of Richard Dempsey and Chris Chatterton for the top 5. But already that gap is around about 5 or so seconds. Well, just over 4.5 really between Sean Campbell and Richard Dempsey. That of course is going to close, as the race winners 1 and 2 from race 1 are going to close off onto the back of sort of the lower down places from race 1, and that gap is going to close very quickly. But they haven't at all done themselves any favours, and yes, it's a 50-minute race. It's not the longest in the world, but you still have to start to think long game, and that time is going to start to dwindle down quite quickly as well. So this fighting early on could really be the detriment that they could regret a little bit later on.
They may well do. So, it's these situations, and this is where Alex Urenga really shines through as well, the efficiency in making his way through the field early on. That's why he has such strong lap 1s, because after lap 1, it really does get a lot more difficult to make these moves quickly and efficiently, and I think Urenga found that out during the first race. But he's once again just had it all his own way here in the second race. It doesn't really matter what he does today, but then again, it sort of does, because this round will become his drop round. And then again, if he has a good drop round, in inverted commas, it can never be great, but if he can have a good drop round, then he can get that safety net again, kind of fall back on. It's still looking like he's on course to score 76 points here today, if things were to end right now. And that's a real big safety net to fall back on, because it means that Campbell, once again, can only gain what's that, 14 points on a single round, which is just not very much at all, and he has to win both races in doing that. So it's once again Alex Urenga just shining through, and he's performing really well once again. But Thomas Cope just trying to get through on Campbell. This is the battle in front though, and Ethan Bash, he said he was going to try and hang on to this as much as possible. Well, he really is right now. 5 cars all fighting over second, with Chris Chatterton on the outside of Thomas Chandridge into turn 1, not able to do it there, although he might have a go down the hill.
We'll have to wait and see, but they are fighting tooth and nail for these places. It's given Ethan Bass a bit of breathing room, because as they fight behind, he's sort of feeding everyone to the pack of sharks behind that are really just going to be fighting amongst themselves. Goes a little bit wide though on the exit of the old hairpin. That could open the door for Michael Patterman to the right hand side in towards McLean's. It'll be the inside. Ethan Bass has got absolutely no hope in that Ford GT to retain that place, and well, that is a clumsy mistake that has seen him to the final place of the podium. Still on the podium, crucially, but it's not going to be the place that he would have wanted, and he's got Thomas Dandridge, Chris Chatterton and Richard Dempsey for company. Also will very soon be Sean Campbell, Thomas Cope, potentially also Stuart Reynolds side by side for Richard Dempsey and Chris Chatterton, as Chris Chatterton just ran a little bit wide off the exit of Coppice, and well, there's Sean Campbell already onto the back of this train. So while they did fight a little bit earlier on, it's not really actually cost them much time at all. They're already now onto the train for the podium.
Well, yeah, it has cost them a little bit, but you're right, not too much. The 50-minute race really does allow them to cost themselves time like that and still get away with it, really. Sean Campbell down the inside at turn 6. He's not turn 6. He's got into 6th at turn 1. There you are, up through ahead of Chris Chatterton in the Audi. So that's another place to kick off for Campbell. And this is a real advantage. I mean, we were saying that those guys like Campbell and Cope and Reynolds were costing each other time. Well, these guys in the battle for second were costing each other time as well. And the fact that they're really close together, once again, is a real help to Campbell. And he will be thinking that a second place is very, very viable for him in this race.
Absolutely, it'll once again be an RSR 1-2 if it continues on this trajectory of Sean Campbell carving his way through. His next victim in some sorts, it is going to be Richard Dempsey. How quickly can the Lamborghini get that move done? But Alex Urenga completely running away with it. In fact, Ethan Bass has given Michael Patterman a good run. The Michael Patterman has not completely ran away with it. So Bass can keep him honest, and maybe if there's a mistake for the Audi, could eye up a move. You can see there Richard Dempsey going defensive from Sean Campbell, who's going to look to the left-hand side. Is the RSR Lamborghini Lamborghini. We've not seen moves around the outside at turn 1 Redgate very often. Very difficult as the track tightens. I think maybe Sean Campbell is going to go for the over and under. Indeed is going to do that. It'll be the outside for this next left, give him the inside for the old hairpin if he's committed enough to keep it there. Has Richard Dempsey got that nose ahead? No, he hasn't. Sean Campbell to the inside. Goes in a little bit too deep though, and this is the crucial cutback that can really initiate that counter-attack, but fortunately for Sean Campbell, he's up into 5th.
He is. Oh, Dempsey nearly gave it another go. Chris Charlton's going to fancy his chances though at getting down. Oh, getting down the inside at Coppis. Doesn't manage it. So outside line it's going to have to be. Thomas Cope is going to be right on the back of them now though as well, which is going to be... Oh, it's going to spell danger for them anyway. Slipstream now for Cope. Looking down the inside and might have a go here. Although doesn't in the end. Bit of a slide for Charlton. But this is now the problem for Cope and Reynolds. They're not quite as close to Campbell as they were before, and so they can't really follow him through and just follow his moves. They've got to make some moves of their own, and it might cost them a little bit more time than it cost Campbell. So they just continue to lose out really there. It's made their life a bit more difficult. And of course we're going to have that lap traffic soon as well. We're nearly 15 minutes into this race. Urenga at the moment just goes through a half distance at the lap. And John Williams is actually the last car really attached to the rest of the AMs, and he's still quite a way up the road from him, so still be okay for a few more minutes, but once traffic does come into effect it is going to be madness out there really.
Absolutely, it's going to be chaotic. As we saw in race 1, we had a bit of a teaser to it. It's going to be probably even more so the case in race 2. We saw Ethan Bass make a bit of a mistake off the exit, the old hairpin once more. That opened the door for Thomas Dandridge and could also spell danger as Sean Campbell looks to the right hand side. Not really an overtaken opportunity into this final chicane unless you're really far alongside coming out of Coppis, because you're not actually on the brakes for very long, and it's quite a flick right, flick left sort of situation. So Sean Campbell played the wiser to just tuck in behind, then wait for this move to the inside. Is he going to go for 2 and 1? Yeah, he thought better that one, just able to get it stopped and tuck in behind. Thomas Dandridge now looking to eye up that move for the podium, but making some very quick progress compared to the likes of Thomas Cope and Stuart Reynolds, who haven't really made much, if any, progress on that train. So yeah, really making quick work of them and moving his way up the field.
That certainly is. At the moment, now in AM, we're seeing a lead for James Slates. Thomas Peel and Timothy Vanderbroek just battling over second here in behind. So Vanderbroek's made good progress here, but the interesting thing is Dean Timms in the pit lane. Now, what's that due to? How long is his stop at the moment? Well, we're approaching 20 seconds. I'm not entirely sure whether there was damage or not. I've got no idea. Well, we're about to find out, I think. Just in behind here, going on the exit of Coppis. Jeremy DeBoy was just in front, and oh, the BMW of Jorge Ferrer cuts across him, and the two make big contact, and that's big damage for Dean Timms, who will have a lot of work to do when he exits the pit lane, and he's going to lose out on a lot of points.
That is dangerous, dangerous ground for our championship leader. We can see Richard Dempsey now. Ethan Bass is really fallen victim. He sort of was his own demise in holding everyone up, trying to be too ambitious, really, of holding on to that podium place. Backed everyone up, so as soon as one comes through, everyone comes through. Thomas Cope now onto the back of him as he makes light work of Chatterton. Stuart Reynolds also trying to capitalise off the compromised run of the Audi around the outside in towards McLean's, and yeah, he's going to look to the inside and get that one done. But Ethan Bass really falling backwards, and yeah, again, he's trying in such a slower car, and he did do a valiant effort really to hold on for the podium as long as he did. But in doing so, everyone backed up, and he's just knocked out of rhythm. Everyone prying their way through, and he's going to tumble his way to the back of this train.
Absolutely. Thomas Cope making his way through on Ethan Bass, who's really starting to fall through the order now. Stuart Reynolds is going to be next, then Chris Chatterton, then Elbing Kjellberg. I'm afraid it's not good news for Ethan Bass, who is starting to really struggle now in that forward, as if he wasn't already. Chris Chatterton looking down the inside and won't be able to make the move into turn 1. Kjellberg has been following him for many laps now, and following Reynolds as well, incidentally, throughout this race. But now there's finally a bit of separation in some of these groups up towards the front, especially in Pro. But yeah, once again, another twist in the tail as to the AM standings. As soon as somebody seems to maybe be starting to get a bit of a stranglehold on that championship, and there just seems to be an incident, and then they lose a load of points, and then we're kind of back to square one with it again. So Jeremy De Boyver's got a great chance here to take the championship lead. So is Ivo Linder, but Timothy Vanderbroek at the moment is having the best race of them, and he could go from 4th to 1st in this race in terms of the championship.
I'm loving it. I'm absolutely loving that AM Championship of how quickly it can swing one way, then very, very quickly just whiplash its way back to the other side. In terms of luck for other people, Vanderbroek didn't have the best race 1, has bounced back for race 2, has got a bit of a gap up to James States, but of course if you can push forward or even just consolidate 2nd place, that's still massive points, especially when Dean Timms is all the way back down still in the pit lane. And yeah, well, as you quite rightly say, it might be a curse to be in P1 in this AM Championship. You know, the luck just isn't going your way, but yeah, you've got to be on it week in, week out, and consistency is going to be the key. That's going to be rewarded, because it doesn't matter if you can win race 1, if you're not in the fight for race 2, then you're not going to be anywhere at all. And of course, as we're over halfway through, you cannot be affording any mistakes at all.
Oh, you definitely can't. But it's going to be our primary focus and our biggest focus throughout the remainder of this season, you would imagine, with the pro standings, of course, going the way of Urenga at the moment. The AMs are really still up for grabs. Just over half an hour to go in this race, though. There's still plenty of time for things to change. Down in the mid-pack of the AMs, it's very close. And Jeremy De Boyver and Ivo Linden are both involved there. They're just on sort of towards the back of a train that's headed by Stefan Schuster at the moment, from 6th place. Then Sasta Moinen's involved, along with those 2 championship contenders I just mentioned. Tom Goodsell and Dieter De Vlaeminck, who's also in 5th in the standings, is involved in that train as well, a little bit further back from this. So it's all very interesting. Catch a glimpse of Branken and Kamano just in the background there. They're also fighting as Jeremy De Boyver comes into the pit lane. Now, with just over half an hour to go, he can go to the end from here. I wonder if this was actually a tactical call or whether there is damage, but this could be a tactical call, because you can, if you fill the tank up right to the very top, of course these guys are limited to 50% of the usual fuel tanks. If you fill it up to the top from here, you can go to the end, and De Boyver clearly wants to get out of traffic.
Yeah, that could be the thing, but of course with it being such a short circuit and still the same amount of time spent in pit lane, you might actually find yourself in some lap traffic or things like that as some of the pro guys catch up onto the back of you. So yeah, it's going to be that thing of just finding a pocket of clear air and trying to run as effectively as possible, even down to the simple things like hitting your mark in the pit stop and just trying to perfect that. But yeah, well, it'll be an interesting call to see how that one funnels out. But it usually is always an interesting one in terms of strategy in race 2, even though it's only one pit stop. And you know, surely it should be fairly conventional. At different points, different people can really gain or lose depending on when they pit, what pocket they get into, which can come down to luck, but you've got to time your pit stop right and you've got to be in it to win it.
You do. Ross Dandridge has made a decent race of it for the moment. There is De Boyver actually just in behind. But yeah, Dandridge has made a decent race of this one for the moment. He's got Thomas Cope and Richard Dempsey not far behind. I think he's going to struggle to keep Thomas Cope behind particularly. But we'll see how it transpires, really. I think that early stop for De Boyver does kind of open things up for some tactical pit stops coming up very soon, especially in the AMs, maybe in Pro as well. But of course, these guys have only really got a 10-15 minute kind of window, because after all, pitting half an hour from the end, it kind of points towards the guys only being able to go half an hour, and that point is coming up quite soon. So it's not going to be too long till we see pit stops for absolutely everybody. It's not a very big pit lane either here. So ideally, or I certainly wouldn't want to be coming down pit lane with everybody, because it's difficult to find your box when you get down there, because it's not a big pit lane and there's 33 cars that started this one. So that's not particularly ideal, but Thomas Cope is going to put some more cars behind him at this stage. Still second, very much on the horizon for him at the moment, even though Sean Campbell is in that place right now. Andridge looks like he's going to be next. Cope just working on this move. We're going to try and do this as quickly as possible.
All he really can do is amateur and sets the fastest lap of this race, a 1:02.653 for him. He's absolutely flying out in front. Sean Campbell only a couple of tenths off as well, a 1:02.8 for him, 1:02.9 on that previous lap. So yeah, the two RSI boys once again dominant in pace. But yeah, Thomas Cope not being able to carve his way through this pack as effectively as Sean Campbell in that Lamborghini, now running second place. But yeah, it'll be interesting in terms of that pit strategy. As you say, no contact when it comes to iRacing in the pit lane, but yeah, even though you're ghosted through, you still physically see the cars, and it can be very, very sketchy to be able to spot your braking point for your box, get it stopped. In fact, as Thomas Cope looking to the left-hand side as down with Dandridge. Gives him the squeeze in towards McLean's. He's going to hold the inside line. Can Thomas Cope get the over and under, get the switcheroo and run side by side in towards Coppice Corner? He's going to be able to do that to the right-hand side. Should be a fairly easy affair. No, Dandridge going to try and go underneath them himself. And yeah, well, that's going to be a done deal there, I believe, for Thomas Cope, who, yeah, well, up into P4, still a decent charge from the back of the grid, but considering he was in front of Sean Campbell, that's not going to be what he wants, and even more misfortune for one of our championship protagonists in the AM category.
Yeah, Jeremy De Boyver there pitted early to get himself out of traffic, got himself into with the pro guys, but when he was having a spin there, got tipped further around. I think it was Jonas Dreyer, was it? Oh, could have been. Or it could have been Thomas Reiter. I think it was more likely to be Reiter, actually, but I'm not entirely sure. Either way, around he went. And Harry Wills goes to the outside here, interestingly, of Taylor Lane. Despite the fact there being no space there, he decided to go there anyway. Taylor Lane breaks late to block Harry Wills from getting through. And in the end, wasn't able to get through at all. So I suppose he did his job there. In towards turn 1. Wills, of course, started in 5th place here today, but it's already outside the top 10 here in race 2, which is not great news. He gets so close to the back of the BMW, and now he looks to the inside on the run up towards McLean's. He'll brake early, he'll go for the cutback here and maybe get up the inside of the hill, although he didn't really get the run he needed because there was a BMW in the way, so couldn't get the speed and won't be able to get through. As we look at Michael Patterman now, who will be having a lot of defending to do soon as well, because Thomas Cope is right behind him, and you can be sure we'll be looking to get onto the podium here.
Will be the perfect charge. There's even from the back of the grid to have a double podium for Thomas Cope. It is going to be a realistic but a decent aspiration to have, and well, it seems very, very realistic, as not even halfway through this race he's already eyeing up that podium place, as Harry Wills does in fact get past Taylor Lane eventually for 12th place. And yeah, well, both of them haven't had the best of fortunes in race 2. They're still giving themselves each other a bit of action towards the back, as Liam Mahern as well gets ahead of Thomas Reiter for P9, just looking to the tower on the left-hand side of your screen. But Michael Patterman will certainly start to feel the pressure looming from Thomas Cope, who's sat underneath his rear wing pretty much for this entire lap, and well, he's going to be eyeing up the move fairly shortly. It must be said, Michael Patterman, I think they're just defending thin air, moving over to the right-hand side, compromising his run for this final chicane. That's really allowed Thomas Cope to get a good run, and that could actually see him to the inside of Redgate. Not entirely sure he's quite close enough, but in fact he might give it a go.
He might. Oh, it was a look, but doesn't go through with it into turn 1. He knows that time's on his side at this stage. It's unlikely he'll be able to catch Sean Campbell or Alex Urenga. He just wants to complete this move without any problems, because that would not be great news as far as Thomas Cope is concerned. He would much rather, yeah, just try and make his way through calmly, I suppose, in this battle for a podium place. Not a fantastic run through McLean's there. It was a much nicer one for Michael Patterman. See in the background there, by the way, Dandridge and Dempsey catching up. But Thomas Cope won't be looking in the mirror here. He'll be looking to make his way through on the Audi if possible. Another fastest lap of the race from Alex Urenga. Into the final corner though, and this is where Cope has been really strong compared to his rivals. That wasn't particularly strong though, out all over the curb and nearly went around completely there.
That was sketchy ground for the Lamborghini of Thomas Cope, but yeah, he has to play to his advantages, knows where he is quicker versus his rivals. That is one of them, and maybe got a little bit too eager to try and get the move done. But you can definitely tell that Michael Patterman is starting to feel the pressure. We saw a couple of laps ago, move into the right-hand side just to subconsciously try and defend that place and, discourage Thomas Cope from making the move. But yeah, well, it'll be an interesting one between those two to see who comes out on top. This is the fight for the final place inside the top 10 between Jonas Drey and Thomas Reiter. I think Thomas Cope has managed to get through, and Michael Patterman has had enough. He's losing a couple of places, tumbling his way down to P8. Thomas Dowdridge also ahead of Thomas Cope. They're fighting side by side. Not entirely sure what's going on there. Hopefully we can grab a replay in a couple of moments. But yeah, well, maybe a bit of contact. That surely is probably the best explanation for that, but I'm sure we'll find out soon.
Yeah, we will do. Dropped to 8th there, did Patterman. Looked like just a spin. It might have involved Thomas Cope though, because he did lose a bit of time and Dandridge briefly got through him. Now Cope is into the pit lane immediately, so I wonder if there was contact between the two of them. We'll try and find out. But Cope is in the pit lane now, and just making his mandatory pit stop. Well, it's not mandatory, I suppose, but you will have to make one. Does that mean the same thing? Maybe. But Thomas Cope is in anyway.
Necessary.
To just fill up a fuel. Yeah, necessary pit stop. Yeah, there we are. Just start on the pit exit there and making his way back out onto the circuit again, and he'll be hoping when it all shakes out, he'll be on the podium again. Thomas Reiter just went slightly wide through the old hairpin there, got out of shape on the grass. So he will remain going in the right direction, fortunately for him. It's just avoiding any major disaster. But yeah, for the moment, Alex Urenga has more than 11 seconds worth of a lead of Sean Campbell, who set his personal best on that last lap. Not personal best ever, but in this race anyway. With a 1 minute 2.6. Just keeping Alex Urenga at kind of the same distance at 11 seconds. As Patterman also comes into the pit lane now. The gap not really changing between RSR teammates, and once again it looks like it's going to be another victory here for Alex Urenga. It's not going to be a double, of course, which he has achieved on 3 occasions already this season, but it looks like it could be yet another win. He's already got what is that, 8 wins I think this season. It is indeed. He's already got 8 out of 11 races. This could be the 9th in 12. He's winning 3 times in every 4 races at the moment in this series, which is a very good record.
Not bad, is it? Not bad at all. 75% win rate so far this season if he does consolidate this race win here today, which he certainly seems likely to. But hey, never say never when it comes to the to this championship. It's always going to be crazy. I mean, maybe he doesn't take the necessary pit stop. It's not mandatory, of course. He's just not going to get very far afterwards if he doesn't come in. But we'll have to wait and see what that one happens. I mean, you don't have to stop. You just will be pulled over to the side of the track and out of the race if you don't. So very much is a necessary pit stop. I'm sure Alex Urenga will take. He is notorious really for stretching his stint quite far in the first one to then of course have a slightly shorter second stint, fill his tank up a little bit less, shorten the amount of time he's actually remaining stationary in the pit box. So that really does play to his advantage pretty much on most occasions, and has really been the reason why he's boasted so much success over the courses of race 2, able to catapult himself onto the podium on pretty much I think every occasion bar every occasion in race 2 I believe. The only race he hasn't been on the podium was the race 1 that we've had today. So he's on an absolute run of form. Fortunately for him, he doesn't really have anyone to race with, so he doesn't have to do anything particularly crazy on strategy, and it's more just a comfortable ride for him.
It is. R.A.W.S and Taylor Lane, by the way, behind are having a great battle, and once again Taylor Lane has got back through again. It's been toing and froing this fight, and it's changed again. Somebody just tucked up in behind them as well. I'm not sure who it is. One of the cars a few laps down, you would imagine, in either Pro or Am. Couldn't tell you, but for the moment, this is the battle for the final spot inside the top 10. I think R.A.W.S is going to be disappointed with this race just a little bit. He did start in 5th place, and he's a very strong driver, of course, and so to be fighting to even stay inside the top 10 here, I think is a bit of a disappointment for him.
Doesn't at all do him justice for his pace and his ability, but I suppose he's not in control. Maybe that could be the reason. I don't know. That's something you might consider there, Ewan. But I mean, he had such a good start. Really, he was fighting really for the podium places, keeping Alex Urenga at bay for a good portion of the opening stint. Unfortunately, I think he got tagged around or had a bit of an off at some point, which has demoted him. But yeah, it's that thing of R.A.W.S. He's definitely got potential to be towards the sharp end of the grid, but whether it's some mistakes on his own part or mistakes on other people's part, he's never really been able to show it.
Certainly hasn't in the EU series anyway, but very strong in the US, which is coming up in 3 hours time or so here in the same place. So look forward to that a little bit later on. But this is by far the best battle up towards the front of any class anyway. Thomas Dandridge with Richard Dempsey and Albin Kjellberg trying to get that 3rd place. Now I'm not sure what happened to Stuart Reynolds, because he was running I think in 4th earlier, ahead of Dempsey. Oh, that could be wrong. But I think he's dropped back a little bit compared to where he was. Although we've got to remember Thomas Cope was involved with this fight as well, and so might get back involved again when it all shakes out through the pit stops. But going through 32 minutes now, we're still not really seeing many pit stops happening. The short nature of the circuit and just the way this circuit is means that you can actually save quite a lot of fuel, and it's not as fuel thirsty as maybe some of the circuits we've seen so far this season.
Could certainly be the case, and yeah, well, it has really been an anomaly in terms of both how close the action has been and in terms of pit strategy as well, mostly down to, as you say, the shorter nature of the circuit. Of course, we do go right-left as opposed to left-right at the chicane, and yeah, that is, well, pretty much cut the lap time by a good few seconds. Which, yeah, of course, is going to make a massive impact. Not one that I would have thought would be this substantial, though. Usually they would still run to sort of the same point in the race, but yeah, well, either way, whatever has happened, and whether it's just less fuel thirsty or whatever. I mean, it's not straight here at Donington. Of course, there is quite a few high-speed sections, but I guess you're not really towards the top end of your rev range for a good portion of the lap, and you do actually, keep a consistent rhythm. It's not like you'll stop, start, and having to accelerate and use a bit more fuel to get the car back up to speed. So I guess that nature of the circuit allows you to save a bit more fuel as well. But yeah, still a lot of people still coming out, and that could actually either really help those that came in early or really poorly hurt them in terms of their position in this race, because they've obviously tried to do something clever and undercut a lot of people, whether that be through damage or just an intentional stop. But yeah, well, it could certainly hurt them. But I guess their sort of saving grace is the fact they might be running in a bit of clear air, while the likes of this train here for P3 of Thomas Dandridge, Dempsey, Kjellberg and Stuart Reynolds are losing time amongst each other. So when they do come into the pit lane, they might actually find themselves a little bit further back than they would expect.
It doesn't necessarily mean they had a longer stop, the fact they came in earlier, but it sometimes does. So yeah, you're right, it might be a bit of a hindrance, but not much changing in this fight at the moment. Somewhat surprising given the action we saw in the first race and towards the start of this one. Really settling down now over the halfway mark. Well, I say that, 3 of them in. So Dandridge, Dempsey and Kjellberg, interestingly all Mercedes, come into the pit lane. Now I was commentating on GT3s only yesterday and talking about how good the Mercedes actually were in terms of their fuel mileage and their fuel consumption, but it just seemed to be that manufacturer that is struggling the most here in this particular race.
Yeah, that is certainly strange. Of course, both Lamborghinis leading the way. Forgive me, I can't quite remember what car Stuart Reynolds is in, but yeah, well, he's pulled himself, keeping going. He's in a Lamborghini, so clearly those Lamborghinis are doing something right in terms of their fuel consumption, and lead the way 1, 2, and 3, and stretching their stint a little bit further forward. But interesting, of course, with how we've seen, the different manufacturers being very, very close on pure pace, but now we're seeing, the difference in terms of fuel mileage. Again, is playing difference. Of course, Stuart Reynolds is going to have a much shorter stop. He's got himself in a bit of clear air by himself. Of course, a bit of lap traffic to contest with. That shouldn't play too big of a factor. While everyone else, Kjellberg and Dempsey, they've come in together, and now Stuart Reynolds comes in on this next lap. They've come in together. They're still going to be in that pack of 3. So yeah, Stuart Reynolds could certainly capitalise off this. Yeah,
and Thomas Cope's early pit stop has helped a little bit. Got through, well, has it helped too much? Not really. He's gotten through on Dandridge now, though, finally. I think he would have rather have done that off the track and in the pit lane, really, rather than on the road. And he's still in that fight now for 4th place. Let's see, they're running down towards turn 1 and trying to get through on Stuart Reynolds all at the same time. Has Cope managed it or not? It's hard to tell at the moment. Let's see. No, Stuart Reynolds has got way out in front of them. So he's really gained, actually, as Stuart Reynolds from that pit stop phase. His pit stop was a lot shorter than Thomas Cope's, whose pit stop was quite a lot longer. But despite that fact, still was able to make up the time. Alex Urenga and Sean Campbell are now in, but it's great strategy there from Stuart Reynolds. He's played that one pretty perfectly. And Thomas Cope, despite having a 5-second longer pit stop, has still made up the time needed to overtake Dandridge there. So that just shows how much pace he had.
It was all bottled up really, and Thomas Cope only now being able to really use it, and well, only what 2.5 seconds up to Stuart Reynolds, so still not over for that podium charge for Thomas Cope. We'll have to see how that one goes, but yeah, only what 14.5 minutes left to go in this race. He's not got the time needed to close that gap, so he's got to be quick. He's got to start that charge now and use any pace that he's got left to try and push forward for the podium. This is still going to be the fight between Kjellberg, Dandridge and Cope, who's still actually keeping them honest. So maybe Thomas Cope driving onto the back of Stuart Reynolds could keep these guys back into contention if they play their cards right. Kjellberg though is going to look to the right hand side. A couple of cars leaving the pit lane though. This could get spicy. Oh, Dandridge is going to get sandwiched in the middle, has to back out, and Kjellberg capitalising so well to be on the inside down the pit straight. Of course, force Dandridge's hand to box him in and force him to back out. So a great move there from Kjellberg to get him into P5.
Yeah, he didn't have any choice there, Dandridge. He could either run into the back of someone there or lose the place, and he obviously chose to just slip back a place there. Kjellberg, nice driving because he put him in that situation, of course, and so he's made his way through into 5th place. But you can just see how busy the racetrack is now. We're very much in amongst the AM traffic. This is sort of what we saw in the first part of in the first race. We saw this a little bit, but then again, not too much. Really throughout that first race, so we're seeing it again now, and it's really chaotic because of course the AM drivers don't have to get out the way, they just have to facilitate the pass really more than anything else, and it's very difficult for all the pro drivers getting through because there's over 15 AMs, there's roughly 15 AMs still out there on a short circuit.
Let's get busy very quickly. Oh, who's that going off? Oh, just about manages to keep it. Oh, that was very close. Just didn't quite get the car stopped, and it sort of rolled itself back onto the racing line, which is always going to be quite dangerous. Luckily, I think most people, if not everyone, managed to get their way through quite safely, and was able to avoid the spinning traffic. But again, that is the danger of having so many cars on such a short circuit. It is that danger of someone spinning, you not being able to avoid it, just the amount of cars you're having to cut your way through, and how frequent it can be as well with such a short circuit and so many cars to fill it. James States though, we haven't really checked in with the AMs quite a lot. I think someone in the YouTube chat as well was like, what's going on with the AMs? Well, there's not actually much going on. James States is completely dominating this race ahead of Thomas Pugh, Stefan Schuster, David Camano and John Williams in P5. But it's been a fantastic race for Slates just to run away with it, and really hasn't looked back since the start.
Absolutely. I mean, we've missed something glaringly obvious as well. Well, I don't say obvious, but we've missed something we probably shouldn't have in Timothy Vanderbroek going off somewhere. 12th place he's gone down to now after looking on course for a second at the very least. We might find out that
that was him.
So it happened very recently. That's why we didn't notice it before, because it has only just happened. And trying to rejoin is a bit of a difficulty. He's done that just ahead of Jeremy de Boyber. So that's where he ended up now. That's how he's ended up down in 26th overall, and way down in terms of the standings there. And there's a bit afterwards as well, apparently. Just a slight running off the road, really. But Vanderbroek, not great news. I find that hard to believe that that's all there was, because I could have sworn earlier he was running in second, which is now 40 seconds in front of him. So surely it must have been more than that. But obviously it was a long time ago now, so we can't really go and look at it. But Vanderbroek has not had a very good race here, when he's had a very good chance to gain back some serious points.
It's chances like these that you need to take with both hands and absolutely smash the opportunity that you've got. But I think we're getting word that he did come into the pit lane after that incident. So it was just him tumbling down the order down to P12. Has set the fastest lap amongst the AMs as well. So I mean, at least there's something. I mean, there's a bittersweet moment for him. But it's a day that he could have capitalised in such a close AM championship. You need to seize any opportunity you can get to gain points over your rivals, because especially when Dean Timms is out of the race, especially when Linden is in P7, you've got it's just not the race that you want to be also one of those championship contenders that aren't doing very well. You want to be the one that's leading the charge and trying to gain some points back, which unfortunately for him he hasn't been able to do, especially after a poor race 1. He needed to bounce back in race 2, and that's not been the case, which it could, in fact, towards the end of the season, he'll look back in hindsight and be kicking himself potentially if this cost him the championship.
He will, unfortunately. I mean, in terms of that, of course, Dean Timms is back out there again. He's 22 laps down. It's going to be very close whether he gets classified or not here. Because, oh no, it's not actually. I forgot this race was 50 minutes, not 45. So, if in terms of how many laps we're expecting, it's going to be more than 44, which is what he needs. As Harry Wills now is off the road and recovering. There's a lap down though, and yeah, just limited things happening at the moment in Pro. Just trying to work out what's going on in terms of the AM standings and where everybody's going to be after this race, but it's impossible to know. At the moment, Jeremy De Boyver might well end up on top of the standings, although that doesn't count Evo. That doesn't take into account Ivo Linden, who might have gotten close to him as well. It's very difficult to work out, but there are so few points separating the AM guys at the moment. It's very entertaining.
Can't wait to see how it all transpires towards the end of this season. Well, most of our attention has been amongst the pros because they've been locked in their own little packs of 3, 4, even 5 at some point. Thomas Dandridge is the one heading this train ahead of Richard Dempsey and Jonas Dreyer for 6th, 7th and 8th. Thomas Reiter is a few seconds back, a good 6.5 seconds back on this fight, so it really is a train of 3, 4, P6. Alwyn Kjellberg sort of ran on to the back of Thomas Cope, who himself hasn't made much in the way of an inroad on Stuart Reynolds, so maybe that podium chance is starting to slip away, because with only what is that, 7.5 minutes left to go in this race, that's around about, give or take, 7.5 laps left to go. He's not got time to make that 2.5 seconds up at all. And well, he's going to need to get a move on. 4 tenths quicker on that last lap. Actually, no, it was 2 tenths slower on that last lap for Thomas Cope. So, yeah, these podium chances, while they look very likely towards the start, Stuart Reynolds might have the measure over him.
May just be able to. I think Reynolds will do here. I mean, he gained massively through that pit stop cycle, as we said earlier. Thomas Cope played that a little bit better, then maybe things would have gone differently. However, it's easy to say that now in hindsight, of course. Difficult to know at the time. Andrews has spent a lot of his race defending, of course, and we've spent a lot of our time looking at him because he's been involved with a lot of the action throughout this one. Richard Dempsey is just in behind, Jonas Dreyer as well. This is all the battle for 6th place. It's the last remaining train, really. We've seen a lot of cars stuck behind one another with not a lot in terms of the way they've overtakes, but finally now they're starting to even out, and even Alex Urenga now starting to put laps on some significant drivers like Ethan Bass and Taylor Lane. He really has had this race all on his own, and while this won't particularly count towards his championship tally, he will be using the points that he earned back at Spa to kind of increase his lead on this occasion. However, he's just kind of re-putting in place that he's putting it back in place, if you like, the safety net that he had to fall back on going into this race. Think about it, he had 82 points to fall back on going into this race because of the way the drop rounds work, and once again he's kind of putting back in that safety net once again. And if this continues as it is, he'll still have 76 points to fall back on, which is an awful lot with only 4 rounds to go. Absolutely,
and if misfortune does go his way and he does have another bad round, it could be this hasn't even been a bad round. He of course didn't have the best of race 1, was still inside the top 10 though, and he's come back into race 2 and he's completely ran away with it to try and go for the race victory, which a lot of drivers would fight so hard to try and get. And for Alex Renger, it's just another day in the office to make it 9 out of 12 so far this season. He's been the man on form, so it's not even like it's been a particularly bad day, because he's still been able to bounce back. But as you say, that safety net is going to be very crucial indeed, just for him to be able to say, yeah, this round isn't going very well, I'm not going to try and do anything crazy. I've got that safety net, I can recover. And when Sean Campbell is still constantly losing points to his teammate, yeah, it shouldn't be too bad. And Alex Renger will know that. He'll have the confidence in himself for that championship charge. And with only a few rounds left to go, we're it's getting the second half of the season underway today. It's going to be very difficult for anyone to stop it.
It is. Just under 5 minutes to go in this race. I'm board with Taylor Lane, who's trying to make his way through, and Ethan Bass at the moment for 12th. Of course, Ethan Bass started on pole for this race, I believe. Or certainly up towards the front, had the lead. But he's fallen through ever since. He is soldiering on with the Ford. We know that it's not the best car pick. And it's not the easiest car to get to terms with, if you like. But it is the car he's chosen. He's made his bed, if you like. And at the moment he's just soldiering on with it. So he's trying to, hold on to this place at the moment. And the lane is just in behind, who's had issues of his own. Just Albin Kjellberg is into the pit lane. Now I wonder if this is a drive-through penalty, because after 25 incident points, you get a drive-through in race 2 of these events, and that's exactly what's happening. We've hit the incident limit with Albin Kjellberg.
Oof, that is,
Wow.
yeah, that is a big one. Yeah, 25. When everyone else around him, the next lowest is, well, R.A.W.S on 19. But other than that, it's, 11x, which does total up. But I think Albin Kjellberg has had a bit of a, rough moment, a couple of scrapes here and there, which, can easily total up 2x's, 4x's and things like that in terms of the instant limit, which, well, that is such a shame. Luckily for him, it's a relatively short pit lane here at Donington, so it's not a major loss, but when he's running up there, just behind Thomas Cope for P5 to finish P9, that's a big hit, and there's nothing he can really do about it now, because it's so late in the race, he can't exactly recover from it.
He's gone back through on Michael Patterman. You just saw that move out of turn 1. Well, it's not over yet, but either way, he's made that move now. But as you say, over 5 seconds is the gap, and there's just under 3 minutes to go. There's literally nothing he can do about this from here, so it's very unfortunate, Kjellberg, but unfortunately, this is where he's going to be now. The remainder of the race. 3 laps to go as they get towards the line here. I believe it's 3, could be 4 depending on the pace of Alex Urenga here. But I believe it's to be 3, including the one they're just starting right now. Not long to go at all. And the battle is just starting to peter out just a little bit. Still that 3-car battle between Dandridge, Dempsey and Dreyer, of course. There's also a 3-car one with Taylor Lane sandwiched between Ethan Bass and Thomas Pugh at the moment. Of course, Thomas Pugh is the, I think, leading AM car right now, leading AM driver. Oh no, excuse me, second place. James Slates is in that first place as far as the AM's concerned. Well, the Ferrari's going off there in avoidance of Patterman. But either way, yeah, that's another 3-car train that's sort of close. And right now, Thomas Pugh's got a nice advantage over Stefan Schuster. Once again, the AM Championship battle being as unpredictable as ever, as Alex Urenga gets 2 laps to go. Not far to go for him now at all. He looks like he's on his way to possibly getting his 9th win in this season. That's only had 12 races so far. It is a remarkable record.
Absolutely, and to think he's only finished off the podium for one of them, and that was today. He is just unstoppable. It must be said, Sean Campbell is the only one really able to give an answer to him, and at best he can match Alex Urenga. He's just that little bit ahead in terms of whatever it is, consistency, pace, carving his way through in race 2, whatever it is, Alex Urenga has certainly got it. And even when he's been knocked down, he's proven today that he can very quickly bounce back up and reconquer those challenges. Sean Campbell has set the fastest lap of a 1:02.3 and has been quite quick, but just not quite quick enough. Of course, Alex Urenga was helped by the fact that he fumbled race 1. Sean Campbell had to start a little bit further back. So it would be interesting between the two of them if they started a little bit closer together, between Alex Urenga and Sean Campbell, because certainly today Sean Campbell has seemed to be on paper the quicker of the 2 cars.
Yeah, I mean, you can see this by the gap. When Campbell cleared all the traffic, the gap was 11 seconds. It's down to 5 now. So, it's been a really impressive pace from Campbell in this one. And he'll be a little bit disappointed he couldn't gain more today on his rival. He only gained 4 points in terms of standings. The gap will come down to 21 points by the end of the day, which is still obviously closer than it was earlier, but it's still not great. And Alex Urenga still has a fairly significant safety net as Ethan Bass just goes on the defensive through into the final chicane. We go on to the final lap now. Unfortunately, though, Taylor Lane just had his number a little bit in towards turn 1 and was able to get his way through. And so 2 of them kind of settled that one. Alex Urenga, though, is on his way, though, to another victory. It certainly looks that way. He, at the moment, is just coming up to the back of James Slates, I think. Or it could be one of his teammates. I think it is, actually. Not quite able to lap all of the AM drivers, but he has been able to lap quite a lot of them. He certainly put his marker down on the field here with this race. Down the back straight for the final time. There might be Sastamoinen in the Mercedes just in front. One of the Porsches as well. Almost nervous to overtake. Just doesn't want to throw away the win. He'll wait until the exit. He'll make that move and he'll come across the line. Checkered flag is out. Alex Urenga's 9th win of the season is a bit of a procession in the end, especially for the win. 7 seconds was the margin between himself and Campbell, and he pulls off almost as if he's just been to the shops. Sean Campbell finishes in second place with Stuart Reynolds holding on for third. I think he's just going to do it. I can't see for the moment. They come across the line. Thomas Cope not far behind. He's in forfeit. And these guys battling as well will get to the line. Oh, Dempsey and Dreyer gave it a go. Off the road for one of them. I think it was Dempsey who went off the road, and Dreyer let him have that one. Didn't want to overtake after having been off the road. So the battles went all the way to the line, but in the end there was only going to be one winner in that race, and only one car in the lead lap in Am. James Slate with his first win of the season, I believe, and a very nice win indeed to be able to finish one lap ahead of the field. Of course he didn't quite lap everyone, but he did finish one lap ahead, and so fair play to him for that one and his first win of the season.
Been a wild ride for everyone really in this race. Been slightly quieter as well, which is not really something we'd expect. But yeah, great race, dominant displays from both Alex Urenga and James Slade to consolidate those race wins. And yet another one for Alex Urenga, 75% race victory percentage probability. That he goes into a race with a 75% chance of going into it and winning it, which is just a massive achievement. And yeah, seems to already have one hand on that championship trophy.
Certainly does. So does Alex Urenga at the moment. 7 seconds is the victory over Sean Campbell and Stuart Reynolds, who held off Thomas Cope to the line. Thomas Dandridge rounds out the top 5. Dempsey and Dreyer finished 6th and 7th after their battle in the final chicane. Thomas Wright, Michael Patterman and Liam Ahern were the final drivers on the lead lap. Liam Bass, Taylor Lane and Albin Shelberg did get lapped at the end. Harry Wills, I should say, and Chris Jarrison will be classified, will get points, but they didn't get to the checkered flag, unfortunately, at the end of that race. James Slate's got a lap on the field by the end, but that doesn't quite reflect the result. Thomas Pugh was second ahead of Stefan Schuster, then John Williams and David Camano. Dido de Vlaming performs best of the real top championship contenders, but even he is 5th going into this race. Jeremy de Boyver, first of the real ones, ahead of Ivo Linden and Timothy Vanderbroek. None of those three really capitalising on the fact Dean Timms is all the way down in 16th. Dom Goodsell rounded out the top 10 ahead of Jarmo Sastamoinen. Then it was Gus Frank and Dirk Bouts. Victor Chamorro didn't get to the end. Simon Dodd will get the points from that race. So will Dean Timms, but only just. Kurt Hau Jensen finished in 17th. He won't get any points. Neither will Jorge Ferrer. Neither, well, that's it actually. Neither will whoever didn't start this race, who did start the previous one in the AM category. Well, that is going to be it then from us here at Donington Park. It's been 2 very entertaining races here from the EU category once again. But this has been the Race Anywhere World Series GT3 Championship from Donington Park. Make sure you join us again in precisely 3 hours. We'll be back once again for the US version of this great championship. But until we see you then, I've been Ewan O'Leary, Zach Sweeney alongside me. David Christie has been behind the cameras. And it is goodbye for now.